Thanks for joining us today at the Mining News Network podcast. Let's get started.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And this time we're digging into Barrick Gold's latest news.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, they just, their 2024 mineral reserve and resource statement just dropped.
It did.
And let me tell you, it's a hefty one, packed with all sorts of figures and insights.
It's more than just numbers, though, right? This statement gives us a real glimpse into Barrick's strategy and hints at where they see the future of gold and copper going.
Exactly. So our mission today is to break down this dense report
Okay.
and pull out the key takeaways for you, the listeners.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so what does this really mean for Barrick's position in the mining world?
Yeah.
And what does it signal about their overall approach to growth?
Well, one thing that immediately jumps out to me is how Barrick is tackling the industry-wide challenge of reserve replacement.
Okay.
You know, most gold mining companies are struggling to replace what they're pulling out of the ground, but Barrick seems to have cracked the code.
So they've replaced over 180% of their depleted gold reserves since 2019, which translates to nearly 46 million ounces of attributable proven and probable reserves.
It's a lot.
That's seriously impressive. What's their secret sauce? Are they just buying up new properties, making these groundbreaking discoveries? Or is it something else entirely?
It's a combination of factors.
Okay.
They have been strategically acquiring assets, yes, but they're also leveraging advanced exploration techniques and optimizing their existing operations. And it's not just about adding more ounces to their portfolio either.
Right. They're focusing on higher grade reserves, so they're not just digging up more gold.
Yeah.
They're digging up more valuable gold.
Yeah, more bang for your buck, right?
Exactly. With a higher concentration per ton of earth mined.
Exactly. This shift towards higher grade reserves suggests a very deliberate strategy,
Okay.
focused on maximizing the value of each ounce they extract. It's a move that could significantly impact their long-term profitability.
It makes you wonder if this might signal a move away from those massive lower grade operations that we've seen in the industry for so long.
It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
Focusing on these higher grade deposits could allow them to really streamline their operations, reduce their environmental footprint, and ultimately boost their profit margins.
Now let's talk copper, another metal that is absolutely critical for the world's transition to clean energy.
Yes.
Barrick's copper reserves have jumped a staggering 224% year on year.
Wow.
What's driving this massive surge?
Well, two major projects are fueling this copper boom,
Okay.
Lumwana and Reko Diq.
Okay.
Reko Diq is a massive copper-gold project in Pakistan, and it alone added a whopping 13 million ounces of gold to Barrick's reserves.
Really?
And then the Lumwana super pit expansion in Zambia contributed a significant 5.5 million tons of copper to their portfolio.
Wow, those are some serious numbers.
Mm-hmm.
These projects are transforming Barrick from this predominantly gold-focused company into a major player in the copper market. And it's positioning them to really capitalize on this growing demand for copper in the clean energy sector.
Absolutely. And it's not just about jumping on the copper bandwagon, though. Barrick is actively positioning itself as a leader in sustainable mining practices. Their CEO has been very clear about their commitment to long-term sustainable growth.
Okay.
And you see that reflected in these projects.
They're not just talking the talk.
Right,
They're investing in projects that have the potential to deliver value for decades to come.
for sure.
Speaking of long-term value, let's dig into their focus on what they call Tier 1 assets.
Okay.
What exactly does that mean in the context of mining?
So Barrick defines Tier 1 assets as those with a minimum 10-year lifespan,
Okay.
high production rates, and low operating costs.
Okay.
So essentially, they're the cream of the crop, the gold standard of mining operations.
So they're not interested in short-term gains or quick wins.
Not at all.
They're playing the long game.
Exactly. And what's particularly interesting is how they define strong potential for future growth
Okay.
when targeting these Tier 1 assets in specific regions. It's not just about the resources in the ground.
Yeah.
They're looking at the political landscape, the regulatory environment, the potential for infrastructure development.
So they're taking a holistic view,
Yes.
evaluating the long-term viability and sustainability of these regions before committing significant resources.
Exactly.
They're not just digging for gold and copper, they're digging for sustainable growth opportunities.
Well said.
Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something that's often overlooked when discussing mining, the social impact.
Yeah.
Barrick emphasizes in their statement that they're not just about extracting resources.
Right.
They're committed to generating value beyond just mining.
Okay.
What does that look like in practice?
It means investing in the communities where they operate.
Okay.
It's about building strong local partnerships, supporting community development projects, and ensuring that their operations benefit not just the company, but the people who live and work in those regions as well.
It's about investing in the communities where they operate.
Exactly.
It's about building strong local partnerships.
Supporting community development projects and ensuring that their operations benefit not just the company, but the people who live and work in those regions as well.
Okay. Before we wrap up part 1, let's pull out a few specific details from the report that I found particularly interesting.
Okay, let's do it. Welcome back to our deep dive into Barrick Gold's ambitious plans for the future. In part 1, we dug into some impressive numbers from their 2024 Mineral Reserve and Resource Statement, highlighting their strategic moves in both gold and copper.
We were particularly intrigued by their focus on replacing reserves with higher-grade deposits and how that might signal a shift in their overall approach to mining. Plus, we started to unpack their commitment to sustainable practices, both environmentally and socially.
Right, and I think it's time we delved a little deeper into those specific details you mentioned. What caught your eye?
Well, one project that really stood out to me was Fourmile.
Okay.
This exciting gold prospect they have in Nevada. They're planning to start pre-feasibility study drilling there in early 2025.
Ah, Fourmile.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing one, isn't it? It has the potential to be a significant addition to their Nevada Gold Mines joint venture, and it fits perfectly with their strategy of targeting Tier 1 assets with long-term growth potential.
Exactly. And then there's the fact that they managed to add a mind-boggling 111 million ounces of gold-equivalent reserves at a remarkably low cost of about $10 per ounce.
That's incredibly efficient. Adding reserves at that low cost showcases their expertise in resource management.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding gold, it's about finding it economically in a way that maximizes returns for their investors.
This all points to a company that's not just focused on short-term profits, but is really thinking about the long game.
Absolutely, but let's not forget about their commitment to sustainability. It's one thing to talk about responsible mining and community development. It's quite another to actually put those principles into action.
Right. So what concrete steps are they taking to ensure that their operations are not just profitable, but also benefit the communities and environments where they operate?
Well, one area where they're making significant strides is in water management.
Okay.
Mining is notoriously water intensive, and in many regions where Barrick operates water, scarcity is a major concern.
So how are they addressing this?
They're implementing a variety of innovative technologies and practices to reduce their water consumption and minimize their impact on local water resources. For example, at some of their mines, they're using dry stacked tailings disposal, which significantly reduces the amount of water needed for processing ore.
Interesting. And are they investing in any initiatives to support local communities beyond just providing jobs?
Absolutely. They're involved in a wide range of community development projects, from supporting education and healthcare initiatives to investing in infrastructure and sustainable livelihoods.
So they're taking a holistic approach, recognizing that their long-term success is intertwined with the well-being of the communities where they operate.
Exactly. And I think this approach is not just ethically sound, it's also good business. By building strong relationships with local communities, they're reducing the risk of conflict and ensuring a more stable operating environment.
It's about earning that social license to operate, which, as we discussed earlier, is becoming increasingly vital for mining companies.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the global transition to clean energy. This is where Barrick's strategic focus on copper becomes particularly interesting.
Yeah, copper is essential for just about every aspect of the clean energy transition, from solar panels and wind turbines to the batteries that power electric vehicles. And with demand for these technologies skyrocketing, the demand for copper is only going to intensify.
That's right. And Barrick is positioning itself to be a major supplier of this critical metal, not just through increased production, but by doing so in a way that aligns with their commitment to sustainability.
Their major copper projects like Lumwana and Reko Diq are not just about extracting as much copper as possible. They're being developed with a focus on minimizing their environmental impact and maximizing their benefit to local communities.
Take Reko Diq, for example.
Yeah.
This project has the potential to transform the Pakistani economy, bringing much-needed investment and jobs to a region that has long struggled with poverty and instability, but it's also a project that faces significant environmental and social challenges.
So how is Barrick approaching these challenges?
They're working closely with the Pakistani government and local communities to ensure that the project is developed in a responsible and sustainable manner.
Okay.
They're investing in environmental protection measures, and they're implementing programs to support local businesses and improve access to education and healthcare.
It sounds like they're really committed to making Reko Diq a model for responsible mining, a project that not only generates economic value, but also uplifts the local community and protects the environment.
That's certainly their goal, and it's a goal that aligns with the growing global demand for ethically sourced and sustainably produced metals.
Consumers are becoming increasingly discerning, and they're willing to pay a premium for products they know have been produced responsibly.
Exactly, and that's creating a powerful incentive for mining companies like Barrick to invest in sustainable practices.
Okay, now let's talk about Lumwana. This project in Zambia is already a significant copper producer, and the expansion of the super pit is only going to increase its output. What's particularly noteworthy about Lumwana from a sustainability perspective?
Well, for one thing, they've implemented a comprehensive water management plan that includes recycling and reusing water whenever possible. They've also invested in a state-of-the-art tailings storage facility that's designed to minimize the risk of environmental contamination.
And how are they engaging with the local community at Lumwana?
They've established a community development trust that funds a variety of projects, from agricultural training programs to healthcare initiatives. They're also working to support local businesses and create employment opportunities for people in the surrounding communities.
So it sounds like they're taking a proactive approach to ensuring that Lumwana benefits not just the company, but the local community as well.
Right, and I think that's a key takeaway from this deep dive into Barrick Gold.
Yeah.
They're not just focused on extracting resources, they're committed to doing so in a way that's sustainable, responsible, and beneficial to all stakeholders.
Their actions suggest that they see sustainability not as a burden or a trade-off, but as a fundamental part of their business strategy.
And that's a perspective that's becoming increasingly important in the mining industry. Investors, consumers, and governments are all demanding greater transparency and accountability from mining companies.
And companies that fail to meet those expectations are likely to face increasing scrutiny and potentially even lose their social license to operate.
Exactly. Barrick's commitment to sustainable practices is not just about doing the right thing. It's about ensuring their long-term viability and success in an evolving world.
Now, before we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, I think it's important to acknowledge that even with the best intentions, there are inherent risks and challenges associated with any mining operation. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Barrick Gold. In parts 1 and 2, we dug into their impressive reserve growth, their strategic shift towards higher-grade deposits, and their commitment to sustainable practices in both the environmental and social spheres.
We explored some of their key projects like Fourmile, Reko Diq, and Lumwana, highlighting how Barrick is positioning itself to be a major player in the clean energy transition, while also striving to minimize its impact and maximize its benefit to local communities.
But as we wrap up our analysis, it's crucial to acknowledge that no mining operation is without its challenges.
Right.
There are inherent risks and complexities that Barrick must navigate as they move forward with their ambitious plans.
You're absolutely right. One of the biggest challenges for any company operating globally, especially in the mining sector, is geopolitical risk.
That sounds pretty daunting. What exactly does geopolitical risk entail in the context of mining?
Well, it encompasses a whole range of factors, from political instability and regulatory changes to resource nationalism, and even the potential for conflict in the regions where they operate.
So basically anything that could disrupt their operations or jeopardize their investments in a particular country.
Precisely. We've seen examples of this in the mining industry, where companies have faced unexpected setbacks due to sudden shifts in government policies, changes in mining regulations, or even outright expropriation of assets.
And with Barrick operating in such diverse regions across the globe, they're naturally exposed to a higher degree of geopolitical risk than companies with a more localized footprint.
Yeah, that's a good point. Think about Reko Diq in Pakistan.
Yep.
It's a project with enormous potential, but it's also located in a region with a history of political complexities.
So while Barrick has managed to navigate the initial hurdles and get the project off the ground, they'll need to remain adaptable and vigilant to manage the ongoing geopolitical dynamics in the region.
Absolutely. Adaptability is crucial for any mining company operating in today's world. The geopolitical landscape is constantly shifting, and companies need to be able to respond strategically to changing circumstances, mitigate risks, and build strong relationships with governments and local communities.
It sounds like a constant balancing act, weighing the potential rewards against the inherent risks and navigating a complex web of political and social factors.
It certainly is. And then, of course, there's the ongoing challenge of environmental sustainability.
Right, we've talked about Barrick's commitment to sustainable practices, but even with the best intentions, mining has an unavoidable impact on the environment.
Yes, it's a resource-intensive industry. It involves digging up vast amounts of earth, which can disrupt ecosystems, alter landscapes, and generate waste.
And we can't forget about water usage. Mining operations require huge amounts of water, which can strain local water resources, especially in arid regions.
These are all valid concerns, and it's essential for mining companies to take proactive steps to minimize their environmental footprint.
Yeah.
They need to go beyond simply complying with regulations and strive to implement best practices, adopt innovative technologies, and engage in transparent and accountable reporting.
And to be fair to Barrick, they do seem to be taking this seriously. They've implemented a variety of initiatives to reduce water consumption, manage waste responsibly, and rehabilitate mined areas.
They have, and those efforts are commendable. But the real test lies in maintaining these high standards across all their operations, especially as they expand into new territories and increase production to meet the growing demand for metals like copper.
So it's a constant balancing act, weighing the economic benefits of mining against the potential environmental costs.
Exactly, and this balancing act becomes even more complex when you bring in the social dimension of sustainability.
Right. We talked about Barrick's focus on community engagement and development, but mining projects can also have significant social impacts, both positive and negative.
Precisely. On the one hand, mining can bring much-needed jobs, investment, and infrastructure to remote communities.
But it can also lead to displacement of communities, disruption of traditional ways of life, and even social unrest if not handled sensitively.
Absolutely. It's crucial for mining companies to engage with local communities early and often to understand their concerns, address them transparently, and work collaboratively to mitigate potential negative impacts.
And this engagement needs to be genuine and ongoing, not just a box-ticking exercise to appease regulators.
Couldn't agree more. Building trust with local communities is paramount for securing that social license to operate, which, as we've discussed, is becoming increasingly crucial for mining companies to thrive.
So Barrick's success hinges not just on their ability to extract resources efficiently and sustainably, but also on their ability to cultivate positive relationships with the people and communities where they operate.
Now, on top of the geopolitical, environmental, and social challenges, we also need to consider the economic factors that could impact Barrick's future.
What kind of economic factors should we be talking about?
Well, commodity prices, for one. The prices of gold, copper, and other metals are notoriously volatile. They're subject to global market forces that are often unpredictable and influenced by a wide range of factors beyond any single company's control.
So a sudden drop in the price of gold or copper, for example, could significantly impact Barrick's profitability, regardless of how efficiently they're operating.
Exactly. And while Barrick has a strong track record of managing costs and weathering market fluctuations, they're not immune to the ups and downs of the global commodities market.
That makes sense. Are there any other economic factors that we should be keeping an eye on?
The cost of capital is another important one. Mining projects require massive upfront investments, and the cost of borrowing money can have a significant impact on a project's feasibility and profitability.
And with interest rates rising globally, that could pose a real challenge for companies like Barrick as they look to finance their ambitious growth plans.
You're right to highlight that it all boils down to a complex equation, juggling geopolitical risks, environmental sustainability, social impact, and economic volatility.
So while Barrick seems to be navigating these challenges effectively for now, it's important to recognize that the road ahead is unlikely to be smooth sailing.
I agree. There will be bumps along the way, and it's how they adapt and respond to these challenges that will ultimately determine their long-term success.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Barrick Gold,
Yeah.
what are your final takeaways? What stands out to you from all that we've discussed?
What strikes me most is Barrick's willingness to embrace sustainable practices while simultaneously pursuing aggressive growth. They're not just paying lip service to sustainability, they're investing in responsible mining community development and environmental protection. They're trying to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
And that's a powerful message, not just for the mining industry, but for any company operating in today's world.
Yeah.
Sustainability isn't just a buzzword, it's a business imperative.
Exactly. Barrick is demonstrating that sustainability and profitability are not mutually exclusive. They can and should go hand in hand.
So as we emerge from the depths of Barrick's operations and return to the surface, I'm left with a sense of cautious optimism.
Cautious because the challenges facing the mining industry are real and complex.
But optimistic because companies like Barrick are showing that a different path is possible.
A path that balances economic growth with environmental stewardship and social responsibility.
And that's a path worth exploring further. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Barrick Gold. We'll be back soon with another exploration into the world of business and beyond.
Thank you for listening to the Mining News Network. If you found this content helpful, please don't forget to drop us a like and subscribe. If there are topics or companies that you would be interested in or like us to cover next, please leave a comment down below.